But let's talk a little bit about BYU's quarterback situation, because Jaren Hall goes into the fall as the undisputed number one guy for BYU football. Kalani Sitake could show up day one and say, well, we're making it a competition. We're going to let all these guys compete. And I say, Kalani, come on. Blow smoke up our skirts about this. We all know that Jaren Hall is the guy for BYU at quarterback. He is a fantastic player. I think a guy who is poised to have an absolutely breakout campaign. I think a guy that's really to kind of splash onto the national scene as a quarterback, because what he did last year in just 10 games, completing 189 of 296 passes for 2,583 yards with 20 touchdowns. The rating he had, it was 156.07. which had him in the top 25 nationally at number 23. With 307 yards rushing, 289 total yards on average per game, ranking number 19 in the country for the 2021 season. Jaren Hall is a bona fide star for the BYU football team, and he is a guy who I think is going to see his star just really take off nationally. We're already seeing it with some of these mock drafts out there saying that he could be a first-round draft pick. I've seen some of them as high as number 10 or number 9 in the mock drafts that are out there. So very much a long way. But goal number one for a guy like Jaren Hall is the first thing I mentioned there. In just 10 games, he did that out of 13 for BYU. You need to see Jaren Hall play a full season for BYU. And I'm not necessarily expecting at this point that you will see him for a full year. I don't know if we can expect 13 games out of Jaren Hall. I'd like to think that we are going to be able to see that this year, but I cannot bet on it because he has not done that at any point during his BYU career so far. So, should Jaren Hall falter, have an injury, or just need to be replaced at some point this season, what does BYU have behind him? Well, they have a former 5-star prospect in Jacob Conover, who saw action in 2 games last year, playing at Utah State. He closed out that game behind Baylor Romney and also appeared against Idaho State. He's been with the program for 3 years now and should be more than capable of stepping into this position. We talked about this probably going back a month or so ago. Somebody sent me a link to him talking about his mental health issues and how he's really worked on overcoming them. What I saw during spring ball from over, and I'm not going to say that it was like, holy smokes, he's a new player type of a deal. But as spring ball progressed, and everything I heard about this as well, that as spring ball went along, he very much kind of stepped into the role and made it his own, speaking of that backup quarterback position. He got plenty of time with the ones in spring ball. It's not a period where you're taking all the 1 reps and giving him to Jaren Hall, because this is a time, and speaking of spring, for you to experience. And the nice part was for Conover, he got time with the first-string offensive line. He got chances to throw passes to guys like Puka Nacua, Gunnar Romney, Keanu Hill, those frontline receivers, the tight ends, Dylan Holker, etc. And that, I think, had him feeling a lot better about what he's capable of doing on the football field. I'm not saying he's a scrub by any means, or he was a scrub before this. The biggest thing for him was getting time and getting his confidence back. And everything I've heard about Conover is that he is a guy who's really starting to emerge and really become the player that BYU thought they were getting coming out of Chandler High School in Arizona. Would you have liked him to be a little more game ready early on in his career? Maybe so. But the thing is, he was also playing behind guys like Zach Wilson, Jaren Hall, had Baylor Romney right there in the mix, who in another era of BYU football, a 3 or 4 starter. He was really that good, folks. There's been a lot of good quarterbacks in front of Jacob Conover so far in his career, and I really think that this fall, should he be called upon, will be his chance to really step out into the limelight and show what he's going to do. He's probably going to be the guy, in my opinion, that leads BYU into Big 12 play. I see the way things are trending right now. Who else are you going to put there that's going to be the guy that's going to overtake him? I guess the one guy that some of you might be shouting at your podcast player or shouting at your computer with YouTube up, probably shouting, well, Cade Fennegan. Cade Fennegan transferred in from Boise State a year ago. He was a quarterback for the scout team this past year. He is now eligible. The issue was in spring ball, we were all expecting, speaking of the media, I think many of you out there as well, to see and hear more from him in ball. Well, he had a lingering injury concern as spring ball went on. We saw less and less of him out there on the football field. So what is Cade Fennegan going to offer to BYU? Who knows? But he will have to show that in training camp to see if he can make up the ground he lost during spring ball to a guy like Jacob Conover. The nice part is, I think both Fennegan as well as Conover are very talented quarterbacks, albeit young quarterbacks, who I think will have a chance this fall to really start to work on their game and really start to kind of step in to that the shoes that we expect Jaren Hall will leave should Jaren Hall decide that this is his final season in a BYU uniform. The only reason I don't see Jaren Hall leaving BYU as they go into the Big 12 is if he has an injury that ends his season early. That's really the only way I don't see Jaren Hall leaving. And even then, he might still consider it just due to his age, because he's a guy who has served a mission. A guy like Jacob Conover and Fennegan served missions. So they're a little older, albeit having youth in terms of the overall eligibility on their side. I think those would be your two guys who really compete to become the heir apparent behind Jaren Hall, to be the number 2 guy, the guy to be BYU's next quarterback as they begin the Big 12 era. But there are 2 other names you'll want to pay attention to on the roster this fall, and those include Maiava-Peters as well as Nick Billups, who are rounding out the quarterback room. So there are 5 quarterbacks in this room for BYU. Could a surprise pop up once training camp opens if BYU decides to add a walk-on potentially? Sure, that could happen. But the way I'm going about these previews is I'm going with the guys that BYU threw out on their roster when it came to their media day just under a month ago. So these are the guys that are on the roster currently. Now, Maiava-Peters is just a true athlete playing the quarterback position. What I love about Soldier is he is a guy that when he's on the football field, you don't know what's going to happen. And that can be both bad and good, because he's a bit of a wild card when he's out there. He's not necessarily the biggest arm or the most accurate or the biggest quarterback overall. I think they list him at 6 foot. He might be more, if he's 5'10", I'd be stunned. He is not necessarily the most polished and just most incredible quarterback out there. But when he's out there, his ability to scramble and just make plays makes him an intriguing option. I think he's obviously probably going to be further down the depth chart than guys like Cade Fennegan and Jacob Conover. But if he really has honed his craft and maybe avoid some of the, what we call those critical mistakes, a bad interception when you're scrambling around, getting strip sacked, that type of stuff. The gambler mentality he plays with in many ways, that wild card mentality, when it comes to catastrophic errors, turnovers, getting your team in bad spots, taking a bad sack, that type of stuff. If he can get rid of that stuff, he's a guy who could be a factor for BYU at quarterback. But the issue is, at this point in his career, do we really expect that from him? That is the question. Now, the other player is Nick Billups, a former walk-on from the University of Utah, a transfer. He is a dual threat as well, more of a quarterback than a guy like Maiava-Peters. Essentially, to me, Soldier is the true dual threat quarterback. Equal ability to run with equal ability to throw. We all hear about dual threat quarterbacks. Well, that's what a dual threat is. Nick Billups, good athleticism, maybe not the same level as Maiava-Peters, but he's got a little more quarterback overall. Both of these guys, I was of the opinion, this is just my personal opinion, I thought both of them coming to BYU at some point during their career, especially early on where they're at right now, I thought they may end up playing a different position, whether it might be a running back, a wide receiver, or moving over to the defensive side of the football and playing a safety type deal. Neither one of them have done that quite yet. Nick Billups, if the story is what I heard it was, he decided to transfer to BYU to continue to play quarterback because Utah wanted him to try a different position. So the 5 guys in this quarterback room, there's a lot of youth there behind Jaren Hall. Jaren Hall is a redshirt junior who has been on a mission. He's been at BYU for a very long time. The crazy thing about this is I think Jacob Conover, if I'm not mistaken, he's a redshirt freshman despite having 3 years in the program already. There's a lot of youth in this quarterback room. The biggest question mark will be, are we going to see, I guess number 1, are we going to see a full season from Jaren Hall? And if we do, how far up draft boards can he truly go? If he is as good as he has been cracked up to be by some of these draft analysts, he could be a first draft pick. And think about that. A second first-round draft pick in just 3 years' time for the BYU football program. That's pretty darn impressive for a guy like Aaron Roderick to have it on his resume. The other thing about this is if you lose Jaren Hall for any length of time, is Jacob Conover up to snuff? Is he ready to go? Is he ready to be the guy for BYU at quarterback? This season will prove that. If not, we could see BYU looking in the transfer portal / recruiting circles to maybe bring in a junior college transfer or another player from another program to compete with Conover and Cade Fennegan as BYU goes into Big 12 play. I think that Aaron Roderick and the rest of the coaching staff at BYU would love nothing more than for Jacob Conover, number 17 himself, to really assert himself, really say that the backup quarterback position is mine this fall, and I am going to be the guy moving forward when Jaren Hall moves on. That is, I think, what BYU wants to see. But could a guy like Cade Fennegan, could Sol J. Maiava-Peters, or could Nick Billups emerge from the shadows and become that guy? Training camp is the opportunity for those guys to show what they can do, but it sure looks like there is a pretty good pecking order at quarterback for BYU. And so long as Jaren Hall is healthy, this offense for BYU could be absolutely incredible. It could be 2020 type offense good. There are so many weapons at Jaren Hall's disposal. His mastery of this offense, it could be a really, really fun year for BYU, especially led by their star quarterback.